I'm very excited for today's call. Um, Met Keith through a common friend and found out I've been reading his blog content for years on SEO. He's worked with very recognizable brands and emerging startups to help them generate more organic traffic to his site. And we really nerded out hardcore on marketing in general. And when he walked me through what his process was, I was like, okay, you're going to help 8loop do this for our own purposes, not just for SEO, but immediately the feedback we've gained, we're putting back into the ad account. And I pretty much somehow convinced him to come and sort of spill the beans on the process that he uses to figure out what it is that's in your customer's mind when they're buying on any product and how to get that stuff out of their mind. I won't go further into it. Thanks for coming, Keith, and I'm just going to pass it to you.
Cool beans, my pleasure for being here. So just a brief background and why this is contextually relevant to you if you, one, want to grow your organic traffic, but two, why most everyone is here, how to get more out of what you're spending on ads. Okay, so I had this one client, we got a ton of client traffic, took it to over 1 million visitors a month from Google, and their conversions, of course, when your numbers scale, your conversions are, and ROI is gonna, or your ROAS, or however you want to look at it, is going to go down. And then the conversation is shifted from, okay, great, we got out of this traffic, but while we 5x'd our traffic, our actual bottom line numbers barely doubled. What's up? And then that turned into conversions and CRO sort of talk. And that is massively important for SEO, because if people click, if they click on your site in Google and then they hit back because for whatever reason your site didn't keep them, you're not going to rank long. So you kind of have to get good. To be a good SEO and to be able to scale, you have to be able to do at least good enough the conversion side of stuff. And that's where this whole process came about. I'm going to show you how to be able to do some super basic, super simple, not always easy, research that you'll be able to do yourself for yourself and or your clients, and be able to go implement that into almost any marketing channel you want to be able to increase, we'll say, a broad term of engagement, whatever that means to you. So I have a fancy little slide deck I'm going to show you. Let me go here. Can you guys all see that okay?
Yep, perfect.
Sweet. All right. So just for context sake, I'm going to tell you 2, maybe 3, if I can pull the third one, if I can remember the third one, applications for what the type of research that you'll be able to use. So super basic one is obviously SEO. We have a new site, brand new site, completely started from scratch, nothing coming into it with any thing that's going to help boost us faster or not. And we just this last week passed our 3.5 month of the site being live, and we're already doing over 1,000 visitors a month. And the engagement, for context there, the bounce rate, I mean, people who hit back from our content, is less than 20. So 80% of people on our site click somewhere on our site. And now the reason for that is, one, simple and good UI UX, but two, the copy and the content talks to them enough to get them to keep engaging. So that's what the whole purpose of this is to get them to engage. A different context, I did one of the things in here I'm about to show you, and we had a ad campaign with, let me rephrase, this specifically was an influencer campaign. Couple thousand influencers. This is a stupid huge brand. And the messaging was one thing. I went in there and I did what I'm about to show you. And within about 2-3 months of getting all this data, all this research, and a handful of CRO. If you don't know what that is, conversion optimization, I imagine you all do. With this roughly a month's worth of CRO, the campaigns that we're working on, we're doing anywhere from 3 on the low, 5 on the high ROAS, or for every dollar we get $3 to $5 back, to peaking at 10 for every $10 back for every $1 spent. And then that translated to everything else that this brand was doing. Does it make sense? I mean, do you guys feel like I'm communicating well enough to you? Do you have any questions so far or anything?
I think we're tracking.
Cool.
I also think, my interest in this most specifically is when we're running ads, I think too often we're figuring it out in the persona document based on the data that we're able to collect from our clients, which is like the weakest link in most of our delivery. And so I think what we're about to dive into will show you how to turn that into your greatest strength, as a differentiator that I think we all need in delivering ads.
Sweet. That was a better way to put it. And thank you. All right. So super short summary from the horse's mouth, awareness map, CRO action plan. Some of these are self-explanatory, but what the hell is from the horse's mouth? So from the horse's mouth, let's get into it. So this I learned, I can't remember the entrepreneur's name. I was doing a bunch of Stanford work, going through their programs a decade ago. And I can't remember the dude. It wasn't Peter Thiel, but there's a guest speaker who came in. He talked about talking to your customers was the most effective thing that grew his brand to $1 billion valuation. And every step of the way, they kept doing it and kept doing it. And about 2 years later, I got into SEO. And about a year later, I rewatched that video and implemented this. And so the horse's mouth is literally your customers. So the problem, oftentimes our ads aren't converting, ROAS is too low, not converting on the back end. So they might convert on a tripwire or some lower dollar offer, but then some back end funnel or product they don't buy for whatever reason, or just the overall bottom end ROI is just too low. So the horse's mouth is us talking to the damn horses, us literally going to our customers and talking to them and interviewing them, aka interviewing your customers and clients. So like Brandon and or Justin mentioned, I'm doing this for them at 8 Loop, and I've interviewed a lot of their executive staff, and I've interviewed approaching, I think, 10 now of their actual paying clients. And in fact, I think I saw a name on here that I recognized. I can't see everyone's name at the moment, but I want to preface this though. It's talking to your customers seems really, really, really easy. I just got off a sales call where it's a multiple 5-figure client, publicly traded, worth evaluated at 6 or so billion. So like, I don't do this with small clients. My point is I have big clients. And so I have the budget to outsource this. But it's very difficult. So I do this. I'm over the last 6 months, I've been having one of my managers sit on my calls or listen to my stuff, and I'll do mock-up calls with her, and she's getting much better. But to do this right, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you 2 resources. One, a mock interview with Brandon and I that we're going to do here shortly. And then I'm going to give you my actual guide here, which this link is clickable, and this whole presentation I'll link up to you guys when we're done. That way you can have all the same resources to go along with the recording, is the actual questions. But just following a set of questions is one thing. And I could ask you question A, question B, question C, done. But to be able to, not necessarily flipping the bird read between the lines, but like reading between the lines when someone is saying one thing and then being able to digest that and interpret what they're actually saying and then convey it back to them better than what they just verbalize it to you as, that's the skill that you need to develop with this. And then that's where you'll find your freakingly, amazingly high value gold nuggets. With 8Loop, the first 2 or 3 people I talked to said the same thing completely different ways without using any similar language, but it was all wrapped up in the value add to them was community. And they didn't say those words, but to be able to read between the lines and figure out what they're saying, I don't know how to say it. It's just a skill that you got to develop. But even still then, going back to having a noob do it, or let's say you've never done this or you're not a people person, even if you just read the questions and don't have your clients or customers fill out a form per se, that comes after you get them on the phone, ideally, and oftentimes both, to fill out the questions as a form. But you want to hear their voice. You want to hear when they say stuff like, yeah, the training is really good. Or they could say, yeah, the training is really good. Or, yeah, the training is really good. All totally different things. And if you read it on a text in a form in a survey that they typed out, that doesn't tell you anything. But if they said, yeah, the training is really good, but the community is amazing, that is what I heard resounding over and over with 8Loop and the community, without them saying it. So I'm going to get into this guy. I'm going to back out here because you got to do this, and you should all be able to see that still. So this is my actual doc. So Dina, when I was on the phone with you the other day, or whichever day it was, this is the doc that I had open talking to you. Every call when I was on with Brandon, with every single person I talked to, this is the conversation document that I have. And again, it's you guys will get all these links in here. So right here, I have 2 ways to do this. If you're on a Zoom, just say, hey, this is for my own personal purposes for research. If you're on a phone call and you have an iPhone, there's an app called Tape a Call, but then again, that's a phone, and then you'll need some amount of consent depending on the state or country, but just flat out be upfront with them. It's so much easier. Oftentimes, getting 20-minute conversations versus 40 to 60-minute conversations, totally different. You can always get a 20-minute conversation with someone. 40 and 60 are a lot harder. So these right here are my high priority questions for if I'm talking to someone for under 20 minutes or roughly 20 minutes. The rest of this is if I can take the conversation longer. So I'm going to walk through these here with you. I'm going to back up real quick before I get into the questions. The way you do this, so like when talking with Brandon and Justin, it's like I literally set up calls with them and we get on a Zoom and then I ask them the questions. Oftentimes you'll have to have the help of your client set up the calls with the customers or the clients, because not always that's doable. But so like there's another client right now I'm working with, pretty big influencer and really big influencer in their space. And we're not able to get on any client calls because of the nature of the work. It's all medical. So then it goes against HIPAA and all that. So I can't talk to these people, at least easily. So I have to do a ton of research as much as possible up front by talking to as many people on my client's team as possible. And so far I've interviewed 12 of them, I think. It's over 10. So if you can't talk to a paying customer or a client of your clients, then talking to your client and getting as much out of them and their team as possible. So like talking to the people you want to talk to is oftentimes the person with the vision. So like I did work with Dr. Axe, and they had a team of, I don't know if it was over 100, but let's just say it was 100 people. We have all these people I can interview. I interviewed for an hour Josh himself. I interviewed his CMO. I interviewed his COO, and I interviewed 6 people on the support team. The support team specifically, because they're getting all the questions, they're getting all the objections, the refunds, all these reasons. They're the front lines talking to the customers, not Josh or anyone else. Rarely, it's the support. So those are the type of people that you want to interview on your client's team as much as humanly possible. So I'm going to go over these questions with you, even though you've probably read them. So these are the super high priority if I have 20 minutes or less. And I usually start with these. And then if I have time, I'll backtrack here. So these are the bolded ones are the priority. So what are you trying to achieve or solve? So what you're trying to do with this interview is you have two sides of the coin. You have your clients and then the customers or clients of your client. You have two perceptions there that you're trying to understand. Your client has one thought and they have one assumption and one perception of why their customers are coming in and buying from them. But when you talk to those people who are actually spending money with them and opening up their credit card, they may say something totally different. So you want to have as well-rounded of a idea of what everyone is talking about. And that's the reason for this. And you talking to both of them, your clients and their customers. So I want to understand what my client thinks. So like when I interviewed Brandon and Justin, I wanted to understand what they thought their clients were coming to them for and what they thought their clients were trying to solve. Same thing here. What are their obstacles? So when your clients, Brandon, for example, are trying to solve X, Y, and Z, what do you think their obstacles are from your perception? And his perception is going to be a little bit different from most because he's on the front line of the marketing. Here, in going after this goal or achievement, what fears did or do you have? And this can be past or present tense. It doesn't matter. You want to ask questions and have them give you answers around the time of the purchase. So I don't know if Dina, I can't remember how long you've been in DD Pro. I know a minute. And so when I was talking to you, I was asking you questions around your mindset around the time of your joining DD Pro. You don't want to ask current tense until after you've got the tense around the time of the transaction, because that's what's important. And then if you can be like, okay, great, you've been here for 50 years. Why did you stay? Or what are the problems you're having now? Or the things you're trying to solve now? And when you're asking these questions, another thing you got to be careful of is, hey man, what problems do you have? What's your problem? Why did you pay these people to help solve your problem? You don't frame it in a negative sense. You just say like, what were you trying to achieve? Or what were you trying to solve? Or what was your goal? Or what were you after? So you want to understand their fears, and you want to understand, again, at the time of the conversation or at the time of the transaction, what burning questions did they have? So it's like, okay, great. I wanted to up-level my skills as a Facebook marketer, but I'll phrase it like this. At the time when you joined DD Pro, what were the questions that you were just like, man, if I can just have this answered, or these 1 to 3 questions answered, oh my gosh, that alone would have been worth the investment. What are those questions that your customers are having at the time of the transaction? You're trying to get in their head and understand as much of the psychology around the reasoning for the transaction. Because from an SEO's perspective, when you can speak to them and get them to stay and feel heard on your page and then get them to click or opt in or whatever, it just helps with rankings. When they same thing on paid, on a paid channel, when they feel heard, when they connect, they're going to come in and they're going to click around and obviously, hopefully buy. So you want to understand as many questions and aspects to their reasoning as possible. So their fears, what obstacles are they facing? What are their fears? What questions do they have to have answered? These are things that you can turn in. Each of them can be a piece of content that you can turn in for retargeting all freaking day long. So another question is, and I oftentimes will ask questions, the same question, but a little bit differently. So instead of saying, I'm not going to try to give an example because I'm going to botch it off the top of my head, but this is similar to what are you trying to solve? You'll see right here, what are you trying to solve or achieve? This one is, what did or do you hope to benefit from purchasing the product? Same thing, but just it asks it in a different way. And because of that, it'll yield a different answer. And from the horse's mouth, you'll have a more well-rounded reasoning for their purchase. Yeah, I wanted to be able to up-level my sales as a Facebook marketer. But really, a lot of people that I talk to, when they go into the conversations with their clients, what they really want is they want to have the confidence of being able to speaking with as a Facebook marketer, being able to go in there and talk like that. Because like if I went in there and tried to talk like a Facebook marketer or a media buyer, it's not going to go so well. I'm not going to have that level of confidence as if I went in there with the mindset of or talking to you as an SEO or content marketer. Two totally different things. And then also, what are they trying to benefit? What thing are they benefiting from? On most of these calls, and I may have said it with you, Dina, even, is you're walking from point A to B on a tightrope, and the community and support you get from DD Pro is a safety net. Without that safety net, if you fall, you're going to go splat and it's going to hurt. With that safety net, it's going to be amazing. How did I figure this out? I just kept asking questions, trying to get to really what they were trying to achieve or solve. And that's why I'll have to ask questions a little bit differently, but still going at the same thing. This one right here. What have you done to try to reach this goal in the past, but had no luck with? What this is going to help you do is look at, this is going to tell you who else they're trying and who else they're looking at and what other people they're paying or giving their attention to. That way you can do if you wanted, a Mac versus PC ad. Not exactly, but you get the point. You can't do those sorts of campaigns talking about your opposition if you don't know who they are. Or when I say that, I immediately thought of Dr. Squatch, I think it is, the men's soap brand. And they're very purple mattress. They're very squatty potty. I think they're the Harmon brothers who did it. I can't remember. Probably not actually, but it's very funny comedy, but it's funny, especially to their audience, because it hits on pain points and makes light of them. And the only way they're able to talk about those pain points is like, hey, did you spend money on that thing over there? Yeah, that sucked, didn't it? Oh my gosh, it was so terrible, but it was so funny, right? You're able to talk like that and communicate to them because you understood what other avenues they went down before they went down yours and realized that yours was the holy grail. This one, oftentimes, especially with the DD Pro crowd, everyone I've talked to, this one's not as much of a must, but I like asking it because it just helps gauge the if someone says, yes, I was trying to go after this, I'm trying to do this, and yes, DD Pro helped. And then they say, if I ask them, would you buy it again? And they say no, which no one has yet. But if they said no, then that would make me question everything they just said positive about DD Pro. Then why the hell would you not buy it again? So that's a question I'll ask most of the time, if we have the time. And this is one that I've introduced a couple months ago that I've had a lot of fun and success with in understanding them. I'll say, what would you say to convince me to join or to buy said product? And then they'll start going down their sales pitch. And then that sales pitch is the same thing that you need to turn around and give back to them or that audience to convince them, because they're speaking from firsthand. They paid, they benefited, and it's from the horse's mouth. You can't get any more direct than that. So that's a very fun conversation. And I'll usually end with that one because at this point, everything here is fresh in their mind and they've had to think about it. And now when I ask them this, now it's all fresh and they can give me a fleshed out sales pitch versus if I started with that. That conversation will go from anywhere from 15 on the low end to 30 on the high end. And as they say stuff, you can just dive in. We're like, okay, so you said this, but can you clarify? Always regurgitate back to them also. So if someone says, yeah, I bought because of A, B, and C, you want to turn around and okay, and you'll say something like, okay, just I want to make sure I'm tracking with you. So you said you will buy this because of this reasons, A, B, and C, right? One, it'll make them feel heard. Two, because of them feeling heard, it'll be easier for them to oftentimes like you if you have a pleasing personality or if you do your best to portray a pleasing personality. And if they like you, it's going to be easier for them to talk about you versus, hey, Brandon, how you doing? Great. What'd you do today? Fun. Okay, great. So this thing over here, why'd you buy it? Yeah, you get the point. It's kind of self-explanatory though. So these are the conversations. If you have more than 20, 30 minutes, you need a solid 45 minutes. You want to go, and they're pretty straightforward. You'll start the conversation with these other questions here. And then in phase 2, you'll transition into super random general questions that may seem like you have nothing to do with your product, and oftentimes they won't. So like, tell me more about your product journey. Sometimes that's applicable to the client, sometimes it's not. So in your journey from trying to solve A, B, and C, what was that journey like? What were the things you were thinking, the thoughts, the emotions you were feeling from the moment you realized that you needed to get in shape because you have a dad bod? What were the things that you were thinking about? And you'll just go down these list of questions. What specifically is difficult for achieving a man bod versus dad bod? Well, for me personally, as Keith, because I have a dad bod, and I say that I mentioned the last few things because I'm talking to me. What specifically is difficult in achieving? Like, what's so hard about getting the body that you want? You want to have them paint a picture of what their day looks like. And what this will do is it'll help you paint a picture of an empathy map. What are they feeling? What are they thinking? What are they seeing? Literally, what are the things that they're doing from this journey from A to B, where they're at to where they're trying to go? Here's a couple conversation notes I want to point out. Ask a question. This is actually from a book. It's on my blog. This is from a dating book that the premise of the book is you first become their friend, and then if you want to date them, then you do it. But the idea is how to have a conversation with someone. So you ask a question, listen, step into the shoes, imagine what it feels like, comment on what they said, use a statement first based on what they say, or what it made you feel or think of. So it's like, yeah, I totally resonate with that. Super short, super simple. And then probe a little bit deeper into the reasoning for what they just said. So, Brandon, you just said that you really like the community aspect. I definitely understand that. And then you make some comment, pull it out of your brain or whatever. And then you'll probe a little bit deeper. So what about a community is so appealing to you when you have, when you're going after this goal? Probe a little bit deeper, maybe add one more comment, and then keep going to the next subject or next question. I do this a lot just in conversations. It's super, super amazing. So I kind of just went over a lot right there. And I wanted to go over these questions. I know is a lot, but everything revolves around you being able to get to the bottom of what is your audience trying to solve. And if you can't do that, everything else I'm about to show you is pointless, which is not too much more, because everything is this. It's talking to your customers. So right here, these questions are all linked up right here. So for each client, I try to interview 3 to 10 people on the client's team that know the most about the customers. And then ideally, I interview 5 to 20 paying customers. That is utterly crucial. I don't care if I could go interview my mom about DD Pro. What's her opinion about DD Pro? Why does it matter? It doesn't. She's not a paying customer. No offense to my mom. All right. So understanding awareness. Once you have completed these interviews, you're going to have a very intimate understanding of someone's, at least their audience, and where their thinking is. So understanding the awareness, though. The problem is you have no idea of what levels of awareness should see which parts of your funnel or content. So you have question A, B, and C that are regularly asked. Well, do you need to retarget that? Do you need to retarget that, or do you lead with that? Because obviously there's different levels of a funnel with Facebook. So the solution, inventory everything your audience knows about your product and brand. So as I've been doing all these interviews, you want to literally, I don't do this during the calls because I won't have a good conversation if I'm typing. So record it, go back and be like, oh, this person said this to this question. This person said this, and just fill it in a spreadsheet real quickly. It shouldn't take you too much time. And like when I said the 2 or 3 burning questions, what are those questions? Put all of this into one big document, spreadsheet or not, and then use this. This is also linked. So I have a neuro site that I'm growing aggressively with a partner. And so that's where these came from. So levels of awareness. So funnel wise, so even most people don't realize it, but inside of, not everyone realizes it, but there's a funnel, ClickFunnels, digital marketer style funnel, tripwire, lead magnet, tripwire, core offer, etc. There's all that kind of stuff, but there's levels of a funnel in awareness that people go through even on the organic side with Google. And this applies to both. So first level, top level of awareness. If he or she, if your customer is not yet aware of what he seeks, but is concerned with the general problem, your headline starts with the problem and then crystallizes into a specific need. Why am I talking about headlines? It's not just headlines, it's the topic of the content that you're going to be promoting in whatever fashion or context. So if I know I have a dad bod, but I don't know where to start, your headline or topic starts with the problem. Hey, do you want to get rid of your dad bod? And then crystallizes into a specific need. So that'd be something like, well, the headline aspect isn't as relevant. So top of the funnel though is just the general topics. And your headline and the topics are going to be talking about the problem. Hey, Keith, you want to get rid of your dad bod? And this will be, again, applicable to paid or organic. So once they click or engage in whatever way with top level content, then if he is not aware of your product, which they may not have been at that point, but they're more aware of the desire. So I know I want to get rid of my dad bod, but really I want a 6-pack abs. I want 16-inch biceps. I want a beach bod. That's my desire. Your headline starts with the desire. Hey, Keith, are you ready for your beach bod? I'm not talking about the product yet. And then 3, if your prospect is aware of your product and has realized it can satisfy your desire, your headline starts with the product. Hey, Keith, Tony Horton here with P90X, Tony Horton here. And I know you want to get rid of your beach bod. Have you thought about, and this is a terrible headline, have you thought about using P90X to get rid of that beach bod and get the 6-packs chiseled abs that you've been looking for? And so you'll be able to take these different topics and questions that your customers are saying from your interviews and fill them in here. So they're aware of the problem. They feel like everything in life, it feels like everything is wrong in life. This is for, I have a mental health brand that we're working on, and that's what this is for right here. Thoughts of self-harm, constantly panicky, feels they're at their wits' end, can't think clearly, massive brain fog. These are just top level things that this audience is dealing with. How do I know this? Interviewed like 20 something people for this. The solutions they're oftentimes aware of already is talk therapy, maybe a proper diet, or a variety of supplements for these topics: anxiety, depression, ADHD. And then the bottom of the funnel terms or things you'd be talking about would be then the branded stuff or stuff specifically related to the product. Hey, I saw you checked out the product, but you didn't buy the product. And it might be for one of 6 objections, and you can have a piece of creative about 6 pieces of creative about those different objections. And you'll know those objections oftentimes because of these. What this awareness map will do is it help categorize where the different talking points are and where they should fall into.
One of the ideas that you shared with me that most excited me was how you've actually built into your process, like that when you're testing headline copy, that you'll do that by running ads and just like running traffic campaigns to see these types of things. And I think where it gets really interesting is that, like, if you up level the customer insight that you're gaining from on the back end of these interviews, and you actually gather it from the customer, because like every single one of us is asking for testimonials from our clients to use the words of the customer already in our ads. But I think for most of us, that's kind of where the buck stops. And I think that we should all consider, like, as a part of our initial engagement, like, should we go to this next level and provide this service in addition as a foundational piece of our approach. And what does that do to the strategic value that we are bringing to our clientele when we say we need to start here? Because it's clear that you don't have the foundational piece of how your customers are thinking about these phases built out.
I'm going to show you that in just a second.
Cool.
So I don't have this linked up in this doc, but because I'm showing it here, I'll link it up somewhere. But so yeah, and this is again for SEO, but this is just like, you can apply this in any context. So fast and dirty, we will literally take these different, so these levels of awareness guidelines can be used for headlines or topics for bucketing or categorizing. So you could create headlines with these for top of awareness. Okay, great. So they feel like everything in their life is going wrong, right? Okay, well, that's this here. So now you know the topic and the structure, and now you can create it. Do you just feel like everything in your life is just going wrong? Click here and discover hope for peace, whatever. I'm an SEO, and we test headlines with Facebook ads. So simple stuff. This is the guidelines that we follow. Nothing crazy. So it's do not test more than 6 headlines at a time. This is our headline, our ad template. There's no top copy. The headline is an image with the headline, or a color with the headline. And then the bottom headline is literally the same headline. That way, from variant A and B and C, the only actual variations are the headlines. And then you just follow these simple rules that we follow, unless Brandon has other rules in the training that you think should supersede this, which I would definitely do if he does. But just create a handful of headlines based off of this. It's such a simple way to test and go forward. So like, I had a client once, he was saying, yes, we need to go this route with the content, A, B, and C, reasons why. And he pulled every reason out of his ass. Love the dude, still talked to him yesterday. Super smart, extremely smart. Pulled all these ideas out of his ass. I was like, okay, great. Well, have you backed anything up with data? Nope. Have you tested anything? Nope. Then why did you just invest $60,000 into all this stuff? He's like, well, I don't know. Well, over half of what he spent his money on flopped. And we went back, we redid all this. We asked all these questions, produced all this content, tested everything with headlines, and then moved forward, and everything went much smoother, faster. So that's from the awareness doc. So fill in the awareness. This is pretty straightforward if you just want to read back. Fill in the awareness map doc with as much detail as you can while properly aligning the topics with their levels of awareness. And that's specifically here. No, here. Again, which is all linked up. So I'm going to fly through this one really fast just for time's sake, because I want to get to the next important thing here, and leave room for questions if there's any more. But backing this up with data. So the problem is you have all these interviews and maps, but no idea what will stick. So one, you test it with the headlines, which I'll put into here. So you'll test it with the headlines, but 2, you'll pull out every single topic or keyword from your interviews or things that you might think are a keyword in your awareness map. Put all the data into a single spreadsheet or whatever form is easiest for you. And then you can use tools like Ahrefs, SEMrush, which I would recommend SEMrush over Ahrefs for paid, and Google Trends to find your keyword data. So in other words, I have all this organic from the horse's mouth content, and I can be like, okay, Brandon, Justin, I think you need to run ads here because of all of this. And this is what they're saying. But if you want to take another step deeper, use these tools and just punch in different keywords. It's super easy stuff. And just be like, oh, this keyword has data behind it. This has none. This has 10,000 people searching for it. So that simple data will tell you a much hot, warm, or cold direction in regards to the different topics that you just interviewed about and you just recorded with all of your interviews. And if you're doing SEO stuff, then you can take that even farther. But on the paid side, even with Google, I would highly recommend still doing this. So this is the CRO Action Plan. How do you actually apply all this? So the problem is you have all these maps, all these data sets, and how the hell do you actually make money with them? So we have a client that has a ton of traffic, paid and organic, and he's not making any money. And now he's making more money. That's the short version. So it's you create a CRO Action Plan based on the data you found, fill in the gaps with this action plan that I linked up. A tool I would highly recommend. Everything that I touch has Hotjar on it for screen recording. And there's a password on this CRO Action Plan up here. It's I love Crow. And it's this right here. So once you interview your clients and all your clients and customers, you're going to be able to go in here and understand much more. And this isn't from me. I actually got this from Hotjar years ago. I've been using it ever since. If it tells you it's that effective. So all these are different content pieces that you can create. So top 3 emotional drivers. And again, this is for my neuro site. They want to feel like their old self again. I can't tell you how many times that I want to feel like my old self again came up. They want to get rid of depression and anxiety and find passion in life again, looking for, or the other audience like me is they're looking for a mental performance boost. So like, what are the emotional drivers that are driving them? And you can go in, you can start creating your personas, Misty, Brittany, Joey. And I have a mom of 2 stuck in the house for the last 1.5 years, completely isolated from everything she loves, feels like in a prison in her own mind, constantly depressed, looking for meaning in life again, doesn't have the motivation to do much of anything. That alone, I can now talk to her, even with that simple little sentence there. And oftentimes we will fill out other documents with persona stuff even more. Top 3 barriers. What are the top 3 reasons that they're not going to buy my product or didn't buy my product? And again, you'll be able to fill all this out from your interviews. Top 3 barriers to purchasing, top 3 reasons why they left this site or stopped considering the client. They aren't qualified to be talking about this stuff. For example, you could be a chiropractor talking about psychology. There's no relevance there, and you shouldn't listen to a chiropractor for psychology's sake, etc. Seems scammy, too many ads. These are things that I got from these different personas telling me about their experiences with other neurosites. Top 3 fears. These are the things they're afraid of in regards to moving forward with a transaction. And top 3 hooks. They want to discover mental peace. They really like the idea of a free consultation. Holistic medicine at your fingertips. All of this, my drivers, my barriers to purchase, and the things that hooked them and made the sale, all of this came from me talking to a customer and having customer interviews, and then backing that up with keyword data. So then now you can go forward and start testing these different hooks and talking to these different personas. Try this subscription for risk-free and give them all the ways you can de-risk your subscription, etc. This action plan came specifically from me interviewing all my clients, etc., or all my customers and whatnot. So this then gives you a much clearer roadmap on what you should actually be testing. And so it's a clear progression from you interviewed your clients, you now have an awareness map and different topics and inventoried topics. And now you put it into this action plan of different things that you can test. And now you can move forward with your testing with an immense amount more data than just shooting from the hip or looking at your other clients' past campaigns. So that's the short of that. And I know I zipped through this last handful of things, which were the backing with data, and that was the Ahrefs right here, or these different tools, and then the CRO Action Plan. Do you guys have any comments or thoughts or questions on any of that?
Oh, hi, Keith. It's Matt here. I've got a question, kind of like maybe a little bit kind of at a tangent, but you talked about the SEO funnel with your headlines, and it's similar to like top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. How do you put those on a page? And is it literally like the headlines of the text, or how do you affect those on a page to make them the most effective?
Let me make sure I'm tracking. So I have these questions here, and I have these different headlines. How do I put them into a blog post specifically?
Yeah, or on a page on a website, or yeah, where do you put them on a website to make them most effective?
It halfway depends on what kind of funnel or what type of content you're sending them to. If you're sending someone to a opt-in for a VSL, it could be in the bullet points and you could be testing there. If it's running it to an advertorial, then you can test each of these different top of a funnel or even middle funnel topics, and each of them could be an advertorial, or each of them could be a blog post, or you could take all of your objections and put them and fears and put them into a blog post. And it could be a review of, like, here's something I'll do often, or I've done. You can have someone else, Forbes.com, leave a review, or you can pay someone to write a review, an honest review. And you can have them talk about these different pain points or the objections or fears, etc. And then you can run traffic to that. And then the people that from there will click through. And those people that when you do that are super warm and they've already clicked through and now they're aware of the product because they went from unaware to reading something on Forbes or third party. The Forbes talked about the problem and then reviewed the product, and then they clicked through, and finally the people who clicked through are super warm, and now you can retarget with your product versus target with other objections, etc. So it's completely contextual to how you want to use it, and it's flexible.
Thank you.
Totally. Did anyone else have any questions of any sort?
Well, thank you for doing this first and foremost. Super excited to kind of hear what other people have to say. If you guys do have questions, and I see one, but I'll go on here. I do know that oftentimes I've heard requests for someone to refer SEO work to. If that comes up, I know I've chatted with Keith, and that's something that he would love to chat with you guys about. If that's something that you feel like is outside of the wheelhouse, you're not offering, you're looking for someone with a lot of experience, Keith has some amazing case studies. Connect with him. I'm sure you guys can find ways to develop a partnership there. Just wanted to throw that out there. And then, looks like we've got a question. Kim, finding people to interview. Would you say to interview past clients or go into Facebook groups where your ideal clients live to interview them? I know you mentioned you get a copy of the document. Will you provide us with a copy of the Google Doc inside the chat? So can you drop it inside the chat? Yep. Let me preface my thoughts on this. My thought is, like, if you're early and you don't have that many past clients to interview, I do think that it makes a lot of sense to either interview clients you wish you could have and like get what their success is on the service that you offer. If that's a possibility, not a bad idea at all. And if they're very happy with their provider, like, it could be very good for you to get that insight. I think it's best with paying clients. And I know that Keith asked us specifically, I want some people who've been a long-term client, and I want some people who just signed up, because I want to get a sense of how this changes over time. And I think that, to me, that made just so much sense. And I think, like, I feel like this is a step, or like the level to which Keith goes in this research is just a step that 90% of people, 95% of people never take in planning their marketing. But I think you guys can all see how this can really supercharge the effectiveness of it, because you kind of already know at least what the end of the journey is. And I think for a lot of us running ads, like, we're kind of aiming at people who are closer to the end of the journey rather than the beginning. Because it's sort of easier to show the revenue numbers, at least at first, with a client. But I want to hear your answer. So, for past clients, or like, would you interview past clients, or would you go into Facebook groups and find out where your ideal clients are? And
So this is, there's an assumption here I want to get past. The assumption is that we are talking to, let's say I'm doing this for myself to get more clients, or is that what we're assuming here? Is that what this question is for?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, gotcha. So then, yes.
To be able to use it. I mean, I love what you said at the end, where you can even use it to create content, but then specifically for ads. So my ads are going to be based off of getting more clients, but I can also use it for my clients who happen to be e-commerce brands in a particular niche. And I would love to be able to give them that same process. So it's kind of, to get clients.
Yep. So yeah, real briefly, if you already have clients and it's for them, and this is a service you're offering, you literally just ask them to connect you with the people. It's pretty straightforward. Exactly what I've done with Brandon and Justin, which Nicole and Brooke have been helping me with. But if it's for yourself to get more clients, which it is in this case, exactly what Brandon did. And I did this to get my first, this is years ago. My second client was Noah Kagan for Sumo Me, the domain. He had just bought it. And this is way back. And then he connected me with a couple other people. And these people that I talked to were ideal clients. And I interviewed 5 of them, and 2 or 3 of them, at least 2 of them, became clients. So if you don't have current clients to interview, 1, I would look up ideal clients and try to get on a phone with them. And then 2, yes, past clients, especially past clients you had a good relationship with. But if there are people that would be ideal clients, so like I'm actually pitching a massive brand, stupid huge brand, they're not a client, and I want to acquire them as a client, and I have a call with them end of the month, and I'm literally going to interview them and ask them a handful of questions and basically survey them on where their SEO is with their brand right now. And I know exactly where it is. It sucks. It's in hole. It's terrible. And I picked them partially because of that. I'm not going to pitch them, and I told them I wouldn't pitch them, but I'm going to make sure that they know my past history with my clients and who they are. That's how I'm approaching 60K a month clients. And I got them the same way. But also this potential client, his name is, let's just call him Josh. Josh is very much my ideal client, and he has my problems. And as you get them talking about their problems, they're going to ask you if they're really passionate about this and they really want to solve these problems, they're going to ask you, do you have experience solving this problem? And that's how I landed this dude. So yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Totally.
Hey, Keith, I know that there's been talk going around both for doing this activity for yourself as well as for clients. And one of the things that I think is actually really valuable that is applicable to both scenarios is one of the final products that you have, which is your content roadmap. And I know, can you show what that is and some of the result and how you can then utilize this information that you're gathering to have a plan of action really for 3, 6, 9 months out into the future?
Yeah, so this is for SEO content specifically, or blog content, but you can do what you should be seeing on my screen. You can do this for any platform. So the core problem is brain imbalance. Now, so this is a mind map, right? Just a tournament trio of topics. But this thing's first version was organically made from my questions that I asked my customers. In my case, half of them were ideal customers, half of them were customers. I interviewed them. I created my awareness map, and then I created my mind map. This mind map is, so we have ADHD is one topic under ADHD. And this is something we're spending money on. So this is what we're actually doing. I'll show you here in a second. So then one topic under ADHD is brain fog. Brain fog isn't necessarily under ADHD, but it's a conversation within there. Then under brain fog, we have how long does brain fog last? Brain fog anxiety, how to get rid of brain fog, symptoms, what are the causes, what is brain fog? And then here's the tree of content. So how do you get rid of brain fog? What foods reduce brain fog? Does vitamin B help with brain fog? Is honey good for brain fog, etc.? All these conversations. You could easily turn this into a paid campaign and just start promoting this content. Our blog posts are converting leads at 10% organic traffic. I know paid, it can go a lot higher, but for organic, that's really high. So we're getting 10 emails for every 100 visitors. And it's all on these pieces of content right here. And you can create that super easy from your conversations. Now, once you create this first version of the mind map, so we have ADHD, then we have brain supplements, then we have stress topics, then we have anxiety, and we haven't started on depression content because, well, these topics are stupid huge.
So these topics, and then every time you extrapolate it out to drill down further, can you talk about where you're gathering that? Where are these things coming from? Because I'm seeing a couple comments about how it's just so much, so it may seem overwhelming to come up with something of this nature, but you're actually taking it from the research, the interview questions, the keyword research, right? And it's just plugging it into something like this.
So part of the reason I didn't show this was because you don't need this mind map. This mind map is why I've taken 2 sites to over 7 figures in traffic and one partnered and did it. It's this mind map, but that's specifically for SEO. But so where I got all these conversations, so one stemmed from the interviews, heavily from the interviews. 2, let's say I want to talk about ADHD, right? And I Google ADHD. Probably a third of the questions here, like the super detailed nitty gritty ones. Does my 2 to 4-year-old have ADHD? If you Google any keyword, and you don't have to do keyword research to do this. So it could be even how to create Facebook ads that convert. Did I spell that right? Hey, I did. How do I create Facebook ads that convert? Let's say that's your topic. People also ask, this is one of my favorite things. Half the time, these keywords are very little, but oftentimes very little in search volume, monthly search volume, but they're here because Google knows that people also ask that. Google's sole job is to either 1, get you to click, or get you to stay on Google and not click through the SERP. Because if you stay on Google and I close this tab right now, they'll know that my question was answered probably because of these right here, or because someone clicked one of these people also ask. Now check this out. I'm going to hit back, go back to ADHD. ADHD symptoms, let's say there. And I'm going to look at these. What are the 9 symptoms of ADHD? 3 symptoms. What can trigger ADHD? How is it diagnosed? So check this out. If I click on one of these people also asked, you'll see it expanded to even more questions. I'm going to de-expand that, click. What happens if you leave untreated? And it gives me more questions. Is ADHD a form of autism? Now, here's the thing. If I keep clicking on autism or a certain topic within these, it's going to show me other questions related to the question I clicked on. So can ADHD go away? So now watch. Does ADHD affect sleep? What do ADHD tics look like? So that one wasn't exactly the same as what I just said, but oftentimes you want to stay in the topic that you're already in. So these are all topics that I then copy pasted, punched into, I use Ahrefs for SEO purposes, but if you're doing this for paid, then use SEMrush, punch it into paid SEMrush, and then you can just see which of these keywords have search volume. And you can be like, okay, people are searching for this, or people are not. If they are, it makes more sense to create content around it and run ads to it. And then if it doesn't, it doesn't. That's what a fraction of these came from. A chunk of these came from.
And I also think that, and because we do pay, we have the opportunity to bring these to people, right? We don't need them to discover them. So, a topic on newfound link between autism and ADHD.
Exactly.
People will click on that, right? Like you're creating the newsworthiness. And so, but having it all backed on the foundation of a buying signal one step away, right? And a desired outcome, like this is the strength of this approach. And you can see how, for Keith, it's like turned into this formulaic process for him to build entire sitemaps with thousands of articles. Like that's where they get to, like tens of thousands sometimes. So do you see how this could inform your ad library for your clients, right? And even if you really broke out all the things that clients want to know about getting their result, like you would have a similar mind map to this, I promise you, because you can go all the way into the nitty gritty. Now, for us in the paid traffic world, I don't think that we need to do it with the same intent of being able to address all of this. We can very quickly pick the top 5 and run a test. But what we do want to know, right, is that we're targeting people who are problem aware and that we're orientating our solution or our client solution using the same language that people have used to describe the benefit that they were trying to get and then received from the product. It just makes it so much easier for them to say yes to it. And you don't have to guess, you know, like I think oftentimes we throw copywriting brain at the problem when sometimes really all we need is like the correct answer on why people actually bought this thing in the past. And then that allows us this whole new platform through which to create variations on that content and expose people who have this problem or who are just solution unaware and how to describe what the outcome is that we're promising.
And for context, I've never shared this with anyone. This is the most I've ever publicly shared any of this.
Oh man.
Yeah. So,
thank you.
Definitely. So I closed a client last week at 6,500 to do this whole research process for them. And they're just going to get a massive ton of data. And that's all they're getting. And then from there, it's, hey, well, would you like to? And for me, it's in the context of SEO. So then I'm going to be like, hey, we got all this stuff. And then I give them a forecasting sheet. Do you want to rank with this? Here's potential forecasting projections. And you could do the exact same with Facebook ads or any ad platform. Yeah.
And one of our coaches recommends selling, he calls it a RAP, like a results action plan. And I think that this type of line item adds such specific value and expertise surrounding how to take their past business success and turn it into future through ads. Like it just logically makes a lot of sense why you would want to talk to these customers. And I think like most of the gold, in my opinion, from these types of interviews will come from your ability to perceive not the words of what people are saying back to you, but the emotions that with which they say them, as Keith was referencing earlier on. And it's that bit of magic. Like, that's why I was like, Keith, you're going to do this for us, because I could see that like you're getting to that. And I think that's one of the hardest places to get. And it was just a no-brainer for me to have you do it. And I think that for your clients, like you can echo that. It should help you close more deals faster. But beyond that, it should also help your ads work better if you're working from some kind of framework to really get to the nitty gritty of how people are making this decision, what they say about it and how it made them feel. And then like reinterpreting that with copywriting is just a recipe for success. We've had an amazing chat. Thank you again, Keith. Any final questions before we wrap this up?
My pleasure, Matt.
I do want to say, Keith, tell us where people can connect with you, how they can reach out to you, like if they want to potentially, partner with you on SEO or something like that for their clientele.
Totally. So I actually have a simple slide. I didn't want to be too fancy, just book a call. But if you need this for yourself or your clients, this is the link to book a call with me. You can even email me at Keith at the Traffic Dojo, just how it sounds, KEITH at the Traffic Dojo. Straightforward right there. There's the site. If you have a question and you don't feel like booking a call, just hit me up. I'll answer.
And by the way, guys, reminder, look at the brands here. Dr. Axe, Manscaped, Remax. Keith, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing all this with us. Dude. Yeah, I didn't. Maybe Justin and I kind of teased out a little extra from what you planned to share on this call, but I hope, I'm certain that will come back to you. And yeah, well, guys, we're going to call that a wrap. Keith will be around in our group too, for the next couple months as a guest coach. So if you want to ask any questions about this process or get deeper into it, like, he'll be in the group. I look forward to those conversations. Keith, feel free to jump on any of the calls that we have scheduled during that time. Pick our brains, leverage our coaches to help you, if that makes any sense. And yeah, thank you guys.